Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1987's MANKILLERS. It says in the tagline here, no man can stop them. They're beautiful, they're deadly, they're on a rampage. MANKILLERS 1987, put out on DVD and Blu-ray by Slasher Video. This is the back of the Blu-ray here. And MANKILLERS comes out. It's written and directed by the guy that did Deadly Prey and Killer Workout, and I believe both of those titles are also available on Slasher Video. Killer Workout will be coming on the future at some point on this YouTube page as well. This is a film, MANKILLERS, here that I rented on VHS from the video store. A pretty long time ago, and kind of watched it, and then all of a sudden years later it's on Blu-ray. So this is just unbelievable, and I did not remember a lot of it. So let's get into this film here. This is put out by Slasher Video. I picked this up on Amazon some months ago, and this is it. 1987, one of my favorite years, just like I can think of in my own life with movies. So here it is, MANKILLERS. MANKILLERS is a balls to the wall, violent female action film. I reviewed a movie on this YouTube page called Striker, and this would be a great double feature with Striker. Striker and this really had that raw, low budget 80s action energy. This is a film that has a bit of women in prison, has a bit of really based on there's a bit of vengeance, but there's also justice, and utilizing a unique storyline involving true criminals, and getting these criminals to fight for justice on justice's side. And we also have some double crossing, some Benedict Arnolds in the mix, and probably one of the fiercest villains, definitely, because he is a villain that has a past that mixes the right side with the wrong side. This is MANKILLERS 1987. Let's get into this film and break some things down here. First and foremost, let's look at the music, the soundtrack for this film. I reviewed a film on this YouTube page called Lust for Freedom, originally put out by Troma, and then Vinegar Syndrome picked it up. And there is a 80s hard rock heavy metal soundtrack, or a couple songs in Lust for Freedom, and there is a song in here, actually I think called Freedom, that is played throughout the film that is just awesome. If you love 80s hard rock metal type songs with those choruses that you could almost hear the song in a Rocky film during a training montage for Sylvester Stallone. I mean, it really has that 80s energy, that 80s vibe. And so you have that throughout, but you also have this action, low budget action, synthesized, orchestrated score that has moments of intensity, darkness, momentous action. It has it all. There's tons of score throughout the film, and when there's not score, we have that song Freedom, that just has that hair metal type vibe that is just so great, straight from the 80s. So there's a lot of music in here, and the score is actually really well done, because we do have synthesized, but we also have elements that were, the orchestrated is probably synthesized also, but it's very professionally done, and it sounds really, really good. Pieces of the score really reminded me of what you would hear in a video game, not in the 8-bit sound. I don't mean that. I mean if you were playing an action game, maybe even, a more modern action game or something like that, you would hear music like this. But it definitely has an 80s vibe to it as well. And you might even hear pieces of this type of music if you were playing a pinball game from the 80s with the backlight, having an image from this film. This film definitely has a USA Up All Night vibe. That channel that I mentioned a lot on this YouTube page back in the early 90s. That show, you can look it up on YouTube and see what I'm talking about, with Rhonda and Gilbert Gottfried. That was my school for a lot of these films, and I probably saw this. Maybe I saw that for the first time as a young kid on there. But Mankillers has that vibe. It also has just an 80s pinball machine come to life. It has that vibe as well. And I know I've mentioned that before with films like The Lost Empire by Jim Wynorski, which I've reviewed in this YouTube page as well. And this film definitely has it. Now, we have a great montage in this film involving the song Freedom. Just a great training montage. I mentioned Rocky with a training montage, but there's a great training montage in this film as well. And there's something very, very interesting about this film that I have to mention here. First, we have, this is an 85-minute film, and I got to tell you, there's always something going on. It is wall-to-wall action. Sometimes you see some low-budget 80s action films or exploitation films, which this would be in there, definitely. And, there's long moments of just dialogue and long moments, and I still love those movies. But for people who, are really into exploitation and action, they might get bored during those times, and then they're waiting just for the big violent, the violent outbursts and things like that. This is 85 minutes of action. This is 85 minutes of 1987 low-budget action. This is 85 minutes of crazy dialogue and violence, and this is 85 minutes where there's always something going on, whether it be a training montage, whether it be explosions, whether it be gunfire, whether it be sucker punches towards women. It's in here. It's crazy, though. So this film just has it. Now, the interesting thing is, when you look at this cover, and that it's kind of female-led, there's no nudity in this film at all. And you would say, oh my gosh, I would expect there to be nudity, even if there was some women in prison kind of backstory in the film and things like that. While there's no nudity in the film, this is a film that has sexuality with short shorts and the women's legs, and just kind of the sweatiness of the women, and also some tight tops, and you can see some of their nipples popping through and things like that. And a great variety of girls, 80s girls, 1987's girls. But we also have a bit of some, one piece in particular, some sexual violence that is very disturbing. Just involving murder and kind of attempted rape. This is a film that's very surprising, a definitely R-rated movie. Even though I said there was no nudity, this is a film, even though there's no gore either, this is a extremely violent movie. I know this film is low budget, and I gotta say, it breeds gun violence. It is crazy. I say that in the most positive way possible. I don't mean breeding it to giving, people who watch it are going to shoot people. I don't mean that. What I meant is, this is a film where the violence is in the gunplay. The violence is in the sucker punches. There's tons of sucker punches in this film. The violence is in the kicks and just the lashing out of the hands, and explosions and machine guns, and it's some wild sequences in here, even torture sequences, even a sequence with a freaking chainsaw, a chainsaw torture sequence. And the main villain of this film is, his middle name should be Violence. His middle name should be Mean-Spirited. He is crazy. There's cocaine involved in his makeup. There's even a little marijuana smoking in the film when he has some downtime. His hair goes from slick back to freaking curly. But he is vicious. He's crazy. He's out of his mind. If you think of the crazy 80s villains, this guy also doesn't die. He's almost like a freaking serial killer from the 80s, up there with Jason Voorhees, or Michael Myers at the end of part 4 of Halloween. There is some dark, violent attitudes and language. And by the way, the language is crazy too. When somebody says fuck, you feel it. There's even the word cunt in here, fuck used in sexual violence. This is, like I said, so there might not be nudity in this film, and you're looking at the cover and you're like, oh man, I thought this was going to be an exploitation film. It is an exploitation film. It's balls to the wall. Shooting, maniacal villain, and crazy ass characters. We even have white slavery in this film with women. drugs, as I said before, double crossing, and a really unique storyline with vengeance, but vengeance done under justice's wing, okay, under official police justice wings here. This is, if you love 80s action, this Man Killers, man, holy crap, this thing is pretty freaking wild. And it is wall to wall action, as it says on the back here. Wall to wall action and adventure. It's it's a film that probably would not be made today because it would be deemed politically incorrect. This is Man Killers, folks, and there's even some heart in this film as well, and there's one interesting piece of dialogue where it, like, kind of within the storyline, it kind of makes you feel a little emotional for a second there, and then things get ballsy and crazy, and the women are using their bodies, but also using their past, their criminal past. We have some murderers fighting for justice against another murderer who used to be on justice's side. Yeah. This is Man Killers 1987 on Blu-ray right here. And I got to tell you, it's freaking awesome. There it is, folks. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like 1987's Man Killer. By the way, this film is all in the daytime for the most part, too, which is also really cool and very unique. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night.